What happens when a casual sit-down with a comedian turns into a verbal minefield? The lights were warm, the set was staged to feel like a cozy living room, and at first the mood promised levity. But when Prince Harry sat across from Trevor Noah on What Now, the interview that was supposed to be playful quickly unraveled into one of the tensest exchanges either man had faced on camera. Trevor cracked jokes. Harry snapped back. The laughter drained from the room, replaced by a heavy silence. What followed wasn't comedy, it was confrontation. The What Now set was crafted to feel intimate and safe. Two soft armchairs sat opposite each other across a low wooden table. Two mugs of coffee rested beside scattered books, with lamps arranged to mimic the atmosphere of a late-night chat in a friend's living room. Trevor Noah walked in with his signature smile, addressing both the camera and the live crew with practiced warmth. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said with playful rhythm, "he's a prince, he's a husband, he's a father, and he still manages to keep the world talking every single day. Please welcome Prince Harry." Harry entered with a stiff smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He gave Trevor a quick handshake and sank into the armchair, leaning back with the confidence of someone used to commanding a room. The audience, small but attentive, gave polite applause. Trevor started on a light note. "Harry, first of all, thank you for being here. I know LA traffic can break a man's spirit. You survived, so congratulations already." The crew laughed at the quip, but Harry's face stayed neutral. "It wasn't that hard," he replied flatly. "I've dealt with worse than traffic." Trevor chuckled, undeterred. "Fair enough. Personally, I think LA traffic is a medieval torture method. But let's start here. Life in America. You've been here a few years now. How's it treating you?" Harry tilted his head slightly, a smirk tugging at his mouth. "How's America treating me? I think the real question is, how am I treating America? I'd say I've elevated the place." Trevor's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. "Elevating an entire country? That's bold. I'm just happy if I elevate my Uber driver's mood." The crew laughed again, but Harry didn't. "I'm not joking," he said coldly. "My presence alone brings attention, headlines, influence. That's the reality." The room shifted. Trevor, sensing the tension, tried to redirect. "Okay, let's talk family life. The routines, school drop-offs, the normal things people like to hear. What's that like for you?" Harry let out a dry laugh. "Normal? Nothing about my life is normal. And honestly, I don't think people need to know how I take my kids to school. That's tabloid fluff." Trevor lifted his hands in mock surrender. "All right, no carpool stories. But people do like to connect with the human side of public figures. Like if I tell people I burn toast every morning, suddenly I'm relatable. Doesn't mean I'm less of a comedian." Harry shrugged, his tone cool. "Maybe you need to be relatable." "I don't." A ripple of discomfort spread through the crew. Trevor, still smiling, but with less ease now, pressed forward. "Got it. Let's shift gears. Growing up royal. That's a world most people can't imagine. When you look back at that, what do you see?" Harry's expression hardened. "A gilded cage. People think palaces and privilege. What it really is control, pressure, no freedom, a miserable way to grow up." Trevor nodded, his tone gentler now. "That sounds heavy, and I think a lot of people sympathize with that. But at the same time, some might say you benefited hugely from that system too. You know, opportunities, connections." Harry cut him off sharply. "So what? I was born into it. That doesn't mean I owe it gratitude. If anything, I owe myself for surviving it." Trevor blinked once, then forced a laugh. "If that's how it works, I owe myself a lot of money for surviving public school lunches." The crew laughed dutifully, but the tension didn't lift. Harry sat stone-faced, unmoved. Trevor hesitated, then asked the question everyone was waiting for. "Your mother, Princess Diana, she was beloved for her openness and her ability to connect with people. Do you ever feel that same responsibility to be open with those who look up to you?" For the first time, Harry's smirk faded into a glare. His voice was sharp, almost cutting. "Don't compare me to her. I'm not living to be some saint for the public. I'm not here to please anyone. If people don't like me, that's their problem." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Trevor leaned back, his practiced humor now tempered with caution. "All right, that's a strong answer," he said softly, shuffling the cards in his hand. He looked at the camera with a professional smile, but behind his eyes flickered something else. Irritation, maybe even concern. As the segment wrapped, Trevor thanked Harry for his candor, though the words sounded hollow. The set, once cozy, no longer felt like a living room chat. It felt like the first round of a heavyweight fight, and the gloves had only just come off. The cameras cut to a short break. The crew exhaled and Trevor glanced at his guest. The comedian's grin had vanished. Harry's jaw was set, his eyes unwavering. When the cameras rolled again, everyone knew the second half of this conversation would be even harder to watch. The cozy set was once again bathed in warm light as the cameras returned. Trevor Noah clasped his hands together, his familiar stage-ready smile firmly in place, though behind his eyes there was the unmistakable glimmer of a man navigating treacherous waters. "Welcome back to What Now?" he began, his tone smooth but tinged with caution. "We're still here with Prince Harry, and I have to say, man, you don't hold back, which is good. My audience likes honesty. You should see them when I try to lie about being taller than The Rock. Doesn't work." The crew chuckled politely, but Harry simply leaned back in his chair and shrugged. "I've never needed comedy to make myself worth listening to," he said flatly. The smile on Trevor's face froze for a fraction of a second before he recovered. "Right. Good thing I do then, otherwise I'd be unemployed." He set the joke down gently and pushed ahead. "So let's talk about your life here in the States. You've mentioned finding peace in California. What's a typical day like for you?" Harry scoffed at the question. "Typical? Again with that. My days aren't typical. I don't wake up worrying about paying rent or catching a bus. I'm not living like everyone else, and frankly, I don't see why I should pretend that I am." Trevor tilted his head, letting a joke slip through almost automatically. "Okay, so what you're saying is if you were on a bus, the bus would need to bow to you before moving." The crew laughed gratefully at the levity, but Harry didn't even blink. "If I were on a bus, it would probably make headlines. That's the reality of being me." Trevor's smile dimmed again. He leaned forward, trying a softer approach. "I hear you, but don't you think part of why people tune into conversations like this is to see the ways you are like them? We all know you're not hopping on the subway every day, but people still want those small human details." Harry waved his hand dismissively. "People want too much. They think they're entitled to every scrap of my life. That's why I left Britain. Constant intrusion. I'm not here to feed curiosity. I'm here to talk on my terms." His tone was colder now, sharper, and Trevor sensed the mounting chill. He shuffled his cards and tried another pivot. "All right, let's go bigger then. When you look at the monarchy today, what do you see? Tradition? History? Maybe something that still has meaning to people in the UK?" Harry leaned forward, his voice dripping with disdain. "What I see is an outdated machine, a monarchy built on archaic rules and meaningless rituals. They dress it up as duty, but it's control. It's suffocating." Trevor pursed his lips and nodded slowly. "That's heavy. But you know, there are people who would argue that you benefited from that same machine. The education, the protection, the platform." Harry cut in sharply, his tone near condescending. "Benefited? That word gets thrown around too easily. I didn't ask to be born into it. Any so-called benefit was just the leash being gilded." The crew shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Trevor gave a nervous laugh, trying to ease the tension. "Well, for the record, if anyone wants to put me on a leash with gold, I'd like it to at least be 24 carats. The joke landed weakly this time, laughter more forced than genuine. Harry crossed his arms, unimpressed. Trevor pressed on. "Let's talk about family. How's Megan? How are the kids? I know people are curious." Harry snapped almost instantly. "People are always curious." "Too curious. My wife is fine. My children are fine. And frankly, I don't think their well-being is anyone's business but ours. The idea that I need to perform my family life for an audience is absurd." Trevor held up a hand gently. "Fair enough. I get that. Even I try to keep my mom out of my stand-up routines, though she sneaks in anyway. But let me ask, don't you think there's value in sharing just a little bit so people feel connected?" Harry leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "Connected? That's not what they want. They don't want connection. They want access, and I refuse to give it." The silence that followed was tense and heavy. Trevor shifted in his seat and attempted one more light jab. "Man, if this interview was a Tinder date, I think you just swiped left on the whole world." The room chuckled, but Harry shook his head slowly, a smirk curling his lips. "Maybe the world deserves it." That answer sucked the laughter right out of the room. Trevor exhaled, tapping his cards against his knee. He could feel the mood curdling. The casual vibe he had worked so hard to maintain was slipping away, and Harry seemed intent on burning through every ounce of goodwill. "Okay," Trevor said at last, his voice steady but quieter now. Let's shift again. Your mother, Princess Diana, she was admired globally for her openness, for her willingness to be vulnerable. Do you feel like you carry any of that legacy with you? Harry's eyes flashed. I'm tired of being compared to her. Everyone wants to put me in her shadow or measure me against her. She lived her life. I live mine. Stop trying to make me her replacement. Trevor hesitated, his tone cautious. I wasn't trying to... Harry cut him off again, his voice rising with raw irritation, the calm mask slipping as the tension in the room thickened further. That's all anyone ever does. They talk about her as if I'm some copy, as if my choices should mirror hers. I'm not her. I don't owe anyone the comfort of that comparison. The crew exchanged uneasy glances as Trevor swallowed and nodded, keeping his composure. All right, that's clear. Let's move forward then. But the warmth was gone. Trevor's jokes no longer landed, and Harry's words cut sharper with each reply. The cozy set felt colder, almost claustrophobic, and the friendly conversation had twisted into a confrontation. Viewers weren't watching candor anymore. They were watching a collision. Trevor, holding on to his smile, shuffled his cards as though the right question could soften the edge of his guest. But softness wasn't on the table. Okay, let's try this another way, Trevor said, leaning back. A lot of people see you as someone who broke away, who redefined the royal story. Do you think of yourself as an outsider now? Or still tied to that world? Harry gave a dry laugh. Tied. The only thing I'm tied to is people like you asking the same question over and over. I left. I don't look back. It's everyone else who can't let it go. Trevor tilted his head. That's fair, but from the outside you still seem engaged. Interviews, books, Netflix deals. Some might say that's still looking back, just with a bigger paycheck. A smirk curved Harry's lips. Oh, is this where you pretend to be clever? Because I've heard that line 100 times. If you think using my platform is the same as clinging to the past, maybe you need better material. The jab landed. Trevor chuckled, though his smile faltered. Better material, huh? I'll pass that on to my writers. But just to clarify, you don't see it as a contradiction, using your royal name while condemning the monarchy? Harry crossed his arms. People should stop obsessing over contradictions. Life is complicated. I don't need to fit into your neat little boxes. Trevor spread his hands. No neat boxes here, just questions. Speaking of complicated, your kids. Everyone wonders what kind of upbringing you want for them. Do you want them tied to royal tradition or cut off completely? Harry's jaw clenched. My children aren't a talking point. They're not tabloid fodder. The fact that you even ask proves how broken this whole system is. Trevor lifted his palms in mock defense. Hey, I'm not the tabloids. I'm just the guy in the chair across from you. People ask because they admire you and Meghan. They want to know how you see the future. Harry's reply was sharp. Admiration, spare me. The public doesn't admire, they consume. And I'm not here to serve them anymore. The air thickened. Even the crew stopped shifting in the background, their eyes darting nervously between the two men. Trevor forced a smile. If I talked about my mom like that, she'd be in the comments roasting me. But let's pivot. Meghan, how's she doing? How are you balancing the spotlight? Harry rolled his eyes. There it is, the Meghan question. Because obviously I can't exist without her, right? Every conversation circles back to her, like she's the only thing worth asking about. I get it, she's glamorous, headline-worthy, but I'm not her shadow. Trevor chuckled softly. Honestly, most husbands would kill for that level of press. If my partner had that spotlight, I'd ride it straight to free Netflix. The crew gave a weak laugh, but Harry leaned forward, his tone firm. It's not funny. You joke, but you have no idea how suffocating it is. Meghan and I are constantly dragged into the spotlight, whether we ask for it or not. Trevor nodded. I hear you, really. But from the outside, it looks like you lean into it. The Netflix series, the podcast, that's not disappearing into the background. Harry's smirk returned, colder. So now you're lecturing me. Let me guess. You think I should fade into obscurity because it makes everyone else comfortable? Trevor smiled thinly, speaking carefully. Not at all. But when you say you want privacy while making public appearances, people get confused. That's not me judging. That's me reflecting what the audience already thinks. Harry leaned back, arms folded tight. The audience can think whatever they want. I don't owe them clarity. I don't owe them anything. The words hit like a slap, silencing the room so completely that even the hum of the lights seemed louder. Trevor glanced at the cameras, then back at Harry, his joking mask slipping. You know, Trevor said with forced lightness, I thought this would be fun. Some banter, some laughs. Instead, it feels like I walked into a press conference wrapped in barbed wire. Harry didn't flinch. Maybe that's because you came in expecting me to play along. I don't play games anymore. Trevor leaned forward, voice calm but sharp. It's not a game. It's a conversation. And right now, it feels like you're daring me to make it something else. Harry smirked faintly, almost provoking him. Trevor sat back, smile tight. All right then, he said softly. Let's see where this goes. The tension was thick, every word heavier than the last. Trevor's usual rhythm had drained away, leaving only edges. Across from him, Harry sat like a coiled spring. Trevor asked evenly, Harry, you've given short, biting answers to simple questions for nearly an hour. Why even agree to this if all you wanted was to sneer? Harry leaned back, arms crossed. Because maybe I'm tired of everyone thinking they're entitled to my soul. Every time I sit here, people want confessions, drama, a neat story. I'm done playing that role. Trevor raised his brows. You call this honesty? This is hostility. I asked about your family, your kids, your future. You turned every question into a weapon. That's not pushing back. That's pushing people away. Harry's voice hardened. Maybe people should be pushed away. They've done nothing but criticize, judge, and feed on me like vultures. The monarchy, the press, even interviewers hiding behind jokes. It's all the same circus. Trevor's smile thinned. A circus? That's rich coming from the guy selling tickets. The books, the shows, the deals. You built the tent yourself. Don't act trapped in it. The crew shifted nervously. Harry leaned forward, voice low. You don't get it. You've never lived it. It's easy to sit there pretending to understand, but you don't. None of you do. Trevor clasped his hands, voice firm. You're right. I don't know what it's like, but I do know decency, and tonight you've shown none. Harry blinked, thrown for a beat. Excuse me. Trevor leaned in, conviction rising. You've sat here demanding respect while giving none. You've dismissed every topic, carried yourself like a spoiled kid who thinks the world is beneath him. At first I thought you were nervous. But no, this is arrogance, pure and simple. And if you think this honors your mother's memory or builds a future for your kids, you're wrong. You're not tearing down walls. You're burning bridges. Harry's face darkened. How dare you? Trevor didn't flinch. No, how dare you? You came here with nothing but contempt. I was ready to laugh it off, but this isn't wit or courage. This is childishness dressed as rebellion. I've interviewed presidents, activists, people who face storms most of us can't imagine, and they sat here with grace. You sit dripping disdain. That's not strength, Harry, that's weakness. The room was silent. Suddenly, Harry stood, his chair scraping. If this is your show, I want no part of it. I won't be lectured by a comedian pretending to be a journalist. Trevor rose too, calm and steady. Then leave. Because the one thing this show won't do is enable arrogance. Harry's jaw tightened, then he stormed off, footsteps echoing. The camera lingered on the empty chair. Trevor exhaled, facing the lens. His tone softened, but held weight. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what you expected tonight, but I doubt it was this. Interviews are meant to be conversations. What we got was a wall, and I won't apologize for calling that out. What I will do is apologize to you for wasting your time on someone who clearly doesn't value it. He shook his head, the storm settling as the feed faded to black. Harry had come to tell his story. Instead, he left with none.